Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into this IIBA guide called Evolving Product Ownership to Product Ownership Analysis.
It's a pretty fascinating read. It's like Product Ownership 2.0.
So, taking it to a whole new level. And we'll be looking at all this through the lens of the techniques outlined in our POA techniques source.
But highlighting the ones that are, most relevant to the evolution that's described in this guide.
Awesome. Well, the guide really emphasizes this shift from, like, a project-centric to a more product-centric approach in organizations. So what does that even mean?
Well, it doesn't mean project management goes out the window. You still got to execute, right?
Oh, of course.
You still need to build the thing. It's more about this mindset shift. Thinking about, delivering that ongoing value.
Constantly.
Yeah, instead of just like one-time deliverables.
Right. So it's not just about like hitting a deadline. It's about making sure this product is successful long-term.
Exactly. And, you still need that solid execution to build a great product. But it's all happening within the context of this broader product-centric vision.
Okay, got it. So where does product ownership analysis or POA fit into all of this?
So POA is like the framework, and it gives you the tools to, make this product-centric approach a reality.
Okay.
It's about empowering product owners to be more than just backlog managers, but to be, strategic leaders.
I like that. So from backlog manager to strategic leader.
Exactly.
And the guide actually lays out 6 key dimensions of this, like, evolved product owner.
It's like a superhero upgrade.
Right. It's like they get all these new powers.
Exactly, yeah. And these dimensions, they're crucial.
Yeah.
They really set apart, a POA-minded product owner from the rest. We're talking about becoming a customer advocate, a team vanguard, a design partner, a product strategist, a learning champion, and a value driver.
Wow. That's a lot of hats to wear.
It is, but it's what makes them so effective.
Right. So we're not just managing a backlog anymore. We're like advocating for the customer. We're leading the team. We're thinking strategically. We're constantly learning. That sounds like a pretty big shift.
It is, but the guide doesn't just leave you hanging with these high-level concepts, right? It also points to these specific POA techniques that can help product owners actually, embody these dimensions.
Okay, perfect. I was just thinking about that. It's like, how do we actually put this into practice? And thankfully, we have the POA technique source to kind of break those down for us. Let's dive into some of those techniques. I mean, what's a product owner without that backlog? Let's start with backlog refinement.
Yeah. True. The guide really emphasizes that backlog refinement, it's not like a solo mission anymore.
Okay.
In a POA world, it's a whole team activity.
So teamwork makes the dream work, even for backlogs. But why is that so important, this shared responsibility when it comes to POA?
Well, it ensures that everyone, understands the definition of ready for each item in the backlog. So like everyone understands what needs to be true before a team can start working on a feature or a task. It's all about clarity.
So no more confusion about when something is actually ready to be tackled.
Right. It minimizes that wasted effort.
Makes sense. Now, the guide also talks a lot about understanding the customer's perspective. Yeah. And it seems like that's pretty critical for delivering that ongoing value that we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. You can't create a successful product without, understanding your users.
Right.
And one technique that's super helpful for this is customer journey mapping.
Okay. I love a good visual. How do journey maps actually help us, evolve towards this POA?
Well, they let us visualize the entire customer experience, like from their first interaction all the way through.
Okay.
You can see their pain points, their motivations, what delights them, all of it.
So we can see where we can, really wow them.
Exactly, yeah. And that aligns perfectly with the customer advocate and value driver dimensions.
Oh, right. Because you're crafting this whole experience, not just building features.
Exactly. You're building an experience.
Okay, I'm starting to get the bigger picture here. We have the team working together on a well-defined backlog. We're really understanding that customer journey. What else is essential for this kind of evolved product owner role?
I'd say making those strategic decisions,
Okay.
especially when things are uncertain. The guide highlights just how complex this can be for product owners,
Yeah, they're constantly facing these tough choices.
Exactly. And that's where decision modeling and analysis comes in.
Okay. Another great technique from our POA techniques source.
Exactly. And it helps us break down those complex decisions by considering all those relevant factors. Customer needs, business goals, even potential risks. It brings that structure.
So instead of just going with our gut, we're actually using data to make these decisions.
Exactly, yeah. Data-informed decisions. And that technique is a key tool for the product strategist dimension, that long-term thinking.
Okay, this is all making a lot of sense, but I have a question. We're talking a lot about like customer value and strategic decisions, but what about the actual functionality of the product? Does POA address that as well?
It absolutely does. While it emphasizes user value, it also recognizes that crucial role of what we call non-functional requirements.
Okay, for those of us who aren't tech wizards, break that down for us.
Think of it as the quality attributes of the product.
Okay.
So performance, security, usability.
So it's the things that can actually make or break a product, even if it has all the shiny new features.
Exactly. And the POA technique source actually gives us a method for analyzing these non-functional requirements.
Okay.
So they don't get overlooked.
Right, because we get so excited about building the cool features.
Right, exactly.
I'm sensing a theme here. It sounds like collaboration, customer focus, and this strategic mindset are kind of like the pillars of POA.
You're getting it. And you know what? It's important to remember that all of this needs to be grounded in a shared vision, too.
Right. And wouldn't you know it, visioning is another technique highlighted in the guide.
It is, and it emphasizes that visioning, it should be collaborative, involving the entire team and stakeholders to get everyone aligned around, a shared purpose.
So everyone's rowing in the same direction.
Exactly.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And this technique, it directly supports the team vanguard dimension. It's about leading the charge and making sure the team is empowered to achieve that shared vision.
Okay, wow, we've covered a lot of ground already. But one final question before we move on. How does all of this translate to actually creating products that people love?
By focusing on delivering real value to the customer.
Okay.
And that value, it goes beyond just functionality. It's about crafting that positive user experience.
Meeting their needs, exceeding their expectations.
Exactly.
For a topic that sounds kind of technical at first, this is actually pretty inspiring.
It is.
It's really about empowering teams to create products that make a difference.
It's about putting the customer at the heart of it all and using these techniques to bring that vision to life.
This has been an incredible start to our deep dive into, product ownership analysis.
Yeah.
Its evolution from traditional product ownership. We've laid a really solid foundation, but there's still so much more to explore.
Yeah, we're just getting started.
Stay tuned as we continue this journey and uncover even more insights into creating products that people truly love.
One of the most powerful things about POA is how focused it is on truly understanding the customer.
Yeah, it's not just about gathering data.
It's about empathy.
Right.
Yeah.
And the POA techniques source actually has some really interesting methods for tapping into that.
It does.
One that I thought was really interesting was empathy mapping.
Empathy mapping is fantastic. It really helps you get into the customer's head.
Right. Like putting ourselves in their shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
But in a very structured way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, with empathy maps, you're creating this visual representation of the customer's experience.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at what they're thinking, feeling, seeing, hearing, saying, and doing in relation to the product.
So it's like a 360-degree view of their experience.
It is. And it helps us uncover those pain points.
Right, those things that are frustrating them.
Exactly, yeah. Or things that are holding them back from achieving their goals.
Yeah.
But it also highlights their games,
And what they're hoping to achieve.
what they want to achieve and what delights them.
Right. So we can identify opportunities to not only alleviate those frustrations, but also create those wow moments that make the product really enjoyable.
Precisely. And this feeds right into the customer advocate and value driver dimensions.
Okay.
So you're not just building a product, you're crafting an experience that resonates.
Right.
On an emotional level.
Okay, I'm loving this. So empathy maps, check. Any other techniques that we can use to really get inside the customer's world?
Sometimes you need to go straight to the source.
Right.
You got to have a conversation.
Yeah.
That's where focus groups come in.
Right. Focus groups, a classic market research technique. But how do they evolve in the world of POA?
It's not just about gathering opinions anymore.
Okay.
It's about understanding the why behind those opinions.
So digging deeper.
Digging deeper, yeah.
So it's less about, do you like this feature? And more about, tell me about a time when you struggled to achieve X and how this feature might have helped you.
Exactly. And the guide really emphasizes careful planning and moderation.
Oh, right.
To ensure that we're getting, valuable insights.
Because a poorly run focus group can lead to misleading information.
Exactly, yeah. We want to make sure we're using this technique to its full potential.
To inform those product decisions.
Yes.
Focus groups, check. Okay, so we're understanding our customers. Now it's time to start building, right?
Well, not so fast.
All right.
Remember, POA is about a holistic approach.
Right.
We need to think about how the product will actually be built and delivered,
Okay.
making sure we're not just focused on the features, but also the how.
And that's where our non-functional requirements analysis comes back into play, right?
You got it.
We got to remember those quality attributes: performance, security, usability, scalability,
All of them.
all those things that can make or break a product.
It's like the difference between a house that looks nice from the outside
Right.
and one that's actually well built and comfortable to live in.
Okay, yeah, that's a great analogy.
So analyzing those non-functional requirements, it ensures that the product isn't just functional, it delivers that positive and reliable experience.
Right, and this technique really supports those design partner and value driver dimensions, right?
It does.
Because a well-designed product that functions flawlessly, that's a valuable product.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the IABA guide, it doesn't actually prescribe a specific development methodology, right?
Right.
But it does offer this really valuable technique for managing the work.
It does.
Product backlog management.
Yes.
Ah, the trusty backlog.
I knew we'd come back to that.
But how does backlog management evolve in this, in the context of POA?
Well, it's not just about listing features anymore.
Okay.
It's about ordering and prioritizing those features
Okay.
based on their value, the effort required, and their potential impact.
So we're making strategic decisions
Right there.
about what to build and when, based on what's going to deliver the most value
Exactly.
to both the customer and the business.
Yes. And the guide highlights iterative and adaptive planning in this process. So we're constantly reviewing and adjusting.
Agile at its finest.
Absolutely.
So we've got a well-managed backlog. We're focused on delivering value, and we're adapting our plans as we go. But how do we make sure that the product we're building is actually something the market wants? How do we avoid building something that nobody needs?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is.
And that brings us to another important POA technique, product market fit.
Okay.
This is about finding that sweet spot where your product actually meets a real need.
Product market fit. It sounds like the holy grail.
It is. Everyone wants to find it.
Right. Everyone's looking for that.
But how do we actually assess it?
Right. In this POA context.
Well, the guide really emphasizes ongoing monitoring and analysis.
Okay.
You've got to track metrics, gather feedback, and constantly assess whether it's meeting those market needs.
So it's not just a one-time check.
It's not a one and done.
It's continuous.
It is continuous, yeah. And the guide actually gives us specific metrics to track, both quantitative and qualitative.
Okay, I'm curious. What kind of metrics are we talking about here?
So on the quantitative side, we can look at things like the 40% rule,
Okay.
which states that 40% of your surveyed customers should consider your product a must-have, or the churn rate, which measures how many customers are abandoning the product.
Okay. Pretty straightforward. What about the qualitative side?
That's where you look at things like word of mouth, like are people recommending your product?
Oh, okay.
Or media buzz.
So it's a mix of the hard data and kind of the anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
And all this helps us determine whether we've achieved that product market fit.
It does.
Okay. But even if we do achieve that fit, the work doesn't stop there, right?
It doesn't. The market's constantly evolving, and we need to be willing to adapt.
Right.
To meet those changing needs.
So we're always striving for that sweet spot,
We
a
are.
perfect alignment between our product and the market.
Exactly.
This is all incredibly insightful. But before we move on, I want to touch on something that we mentioned earlier. Communication.
Yeah.
It seems like effective communication is really crucial for POA to actually work.
You're absolutely right. We can't do this in a vacuum.
Right.
We need to communicate clearly with stakeholders, customers, the team itself.
A whole team.
Yeah. And the IIBA guide has some really valuable techniques for doing just that.
Oh, it's great. I was hoping we'd circle back to that. So what are some of those techniques that we can use to enhance communication, like within this POA framework?
Well, one that comes to mind is story mapping. It's a great way to visualize that user's journey through the product.
Yeah, I love a good visual.
Yeah.
How does that help us communicate better?
Well, it allows you to create a narrative, kind of
Right.
like a step-by-step account of how the user will actually interact with the product. It's like you're telling a story.
Right, that. So it's not just a list of features, it's a cohesive narrative.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And this visual representation, it makes it easier for everybody to understand the scope of the work,
Yes.
identify those dependencies, track progress.
Yeah,
So it's a win for communication and project management.
it is.
But how do story maps specifically support that evolution towards POA?
Well, they help us focus on delivering value
Okay.
To the customer.
Right.
By mapping out the user's journey, we can identify the features that are essential for delivering that value.
Right. And we can prioritize accordingly.
Exactly.
So it helps us stay aligned with those, customer advocate and value driver dimension.
It does. It's all about keeping that customer at the forefront.
Right. Right. Okay, so story maps, check. But communication isn't just about visuals.
It's not.
Right. It's about using language that everybody understands.
It is. And that's where techniques like job stories and personas come in.
Okay, we talked about personas earlier, those archetypes that represent our target customers. But what are job stories?
So job stories, they kind of complement those personas
Okay.
by describing the tasks or goals that customers are trying to achieve.
Okay.
Instead of just listing features, we're framing them in terms of the customer's needs.
So instead of saying the product needs a search function, we might say, as a busy professional, I need to be able to quickly find the information I need so I can stay focused on my work.
That's a great example.
Yeah, it makes it much more relatable
It does.
and customer-centric.
And by framing our work this way, we ensure that everyone understands the why behind the what.
Right. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But effective communication isn't just about clarity, right?
It's not.
It's also about fostering that sense of collaboration
It is.
within the team.
Yes. And one technique that can really boost that collaboration is using collaborative games.
Oh, this sounds fun.
They are fun.
Tell me more about collaborative games.
So they're activities that are designed to engage the whole team, build trust, and encourage that creative problem solving.
So it's like team building meets product development.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the guide actually provides examples of these games, from prioritization exercises to risk assessments.
I bet these games can really shake things up
They do.
and lead to some really fresh perspectives.
Yes. And they're a great way to foster that team vanguard spirit,
Right.
creating that collaborative and empowered team.
Okay, I'm convinced. Collaborative games are officially on my to-do list.
They should be.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from understanding the customer to managing the backlog, ensuring product market fit, and communicating effectively.
We have.
We've only just scratched the surface, but I think we've highlighted some of the most valuable techniques for actually evolving towards that POA mindset.
I agree.
This has been an incredible exploration of, POA techniques. But before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what it takes to truly become a POA champion.
It really is about embracing that mindset of continuous learning and improvement.
The learning champion dimension.
Yes.
We haven't talked about that one specifically yet, but it seems like a common thread that runs through all of these POA techniques.
It is. A POA-minded product owner, they're always seeking out new knowledge, experimenting with new techniques, constantly looking for ways to improve. They're not afraid to fail.
Right.
Because they see failure as an opportunity to learn and grow.
So it's not just about mastering these tools, it's really about cultivating this mindset that embraces growth.
Exactly. And the world of product development changes so fast, the ability to adapt is critical.
Right.
And that ties into the second key thing: strong communication and collaboration skills.
Right. We've touched on this a lot. But it seems like communication is really the glue that holds everything together.
It is. A POA champion can articulate their vision, listen to feedback, and foster that collaborative environment, where everyone feels heard.
Right. It's not just about talking. It's about creating that space for open and honest dialogue.
Exactly. And finally, the third key ingredient, I think, is a deep understanding of the business context.
So going beyond just the product.
Going beyond, yeah.
And understanding how it fits into the larger strategic goals of the organization.
Precisely. They know how to connect the dots,
Right.
between product decisions and business outcomes.
So they can really make that compelling case for their vision.
Yes.
Okay, wow. So it's this combination of continuous learning, strong communication, and deep understanding of the business that really sets apart a POA champion.
I can so.
This entire deep dive has been incredibly insightful.
It has.
We've explored the evolution of product ownership, unpacked the key dimensions of this evolved product owner role, and really delved into a whole arsenal of practical techniques for putting POA into practice.
It's been a pleasure.
Before we wrap up, any final words of wisdom for those who are ready to embrace this POA journey?
My advice would be to start small.
Okay.
Experiment and learn as you go.
Right.
Don't be afraid to try new things. See what works best for you and your team.
Right, because there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
There isn't.
So it's about finding the techniques and strategies that really work.
that resonate.
in your context.
Yes.
That's great advice. So to all our deep divers out there, embrace the challenge, stay curious, and keep striving to create those products that people truly love.
Well said.
That's a wrap for today's deep dive into product ownership analysis. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.